Hello, everyone, and welcome to Frankenstein's podcast, where it's all about the monster. We discuss all kinds of fictional monsters, creatures, and beasts from the alien to the mythological and supernatural from all corners of popular culture. Good morning. It's morning for me, everyone. I'm one of your hosts, Joe Praska, and...
I'm your other host, Khalid Hussein. What up, what up, what up?
What up? See, that's kind of cool there, too. I said a kind of a cool way to say what up, too.
Yeah, commenting on it was also cool.
Yeah, I'm pretty cool, you know. How are you doing, Khalid?
I'm groovy, man. Up at the crack of 7, just doing my thing, ready to talk monsters with my buddy.
Yeah. We've been recording in mornings lately. I know I don't know if people actually listen to this in the morning, but we've been recording in the mornings lately. It's been kind of a good setup, but you have to get up super early.
I mean, it's just 2 hours earlier than you. It was a little bit earlier today, but it was fine because at 4:30 a.m. we had like an earthquake that woke me up, which if I've been asleep in the past since I moved out to LA, if there was an earthquake, I kind of just sleep through it. It's just like a little bit of a rocking thing that I don't know about. But this one was like I used to live in when I went to college one year, I lived next to a train some train tracks that were like right in my backyard. You probably remember the house.
Yeah.
And it felt just like that with this earthquake. Like it felt like the ground was rattling. So that was intense. But I'm fine. It seems like everybody's safe so far. It was 4:30, so we could still find out something bad happened. But yeah, I've been kind of just up-ish since then.
That's so crazy. I mean, it makes sense, I guess, but living in Minnesota, like earthquakes to me are just like something in movies. I forget that they actually happen to people.
Yeah, dude. Earthquakes and quicksand, realer than we think. And
You have quicksand by you?
Not as bad. Yeah, bro. All over the place. How do you think I got such cheap rent?
Yeah, fair. Do you also have tar pits there? Isn't that a thing in LA? Tar pits?
We have one famous tar pit, the La Brea tar pits, which is there was a old bit. I think it was either Joe Mandy or Harris Whittles that had the joke about La Brea literally is Spanish for the tar pits. So you're saying the tar pits.
Love it. Did you catch any of Comic Con this last weekend?
No, I've been working 6-day weeks because we were in the thick of shooting, so I haven't really been able to pull myself away long enough to check out the pop culture goings on. Did
Yeah.
I miss anything? I mean, you sent me some Star Trek stuff. Any other big news?
There was some fun Star Trek news. There's a new series they announced, Star Trek Prodigy, which seems pretty cool, an animated show for kids on Nickelodeon. But for those of you listening to this will be like 2 weeks out, so this will be old news. But if you happen to have missed out on it, there was some fun monster news out of Comic-Con at home this year, since there was not in person. I think, Khalid, we may have touched on this briefly, but Lovecraft Country coming to HBO on August 16th.
I'm so ready, bro.
It looks so cool.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm very excited for that. If you guys haven't checked that out, check out the trailer. There was also a panel with Guillermo del Toro, and he's talking about a new movie he's producing called Antlers, which was supposed to have already been out this year, but now is rescheduled till next February. But it builds on the Wendigo mythology, and it's about an ancient god creature, which seems super exciting and cool too.
Yeah, I'm excited. I love me some Guillermo.
Same. Anything that he's involved in, I'm usually like sold. Right? Like it's like he's one of the few directors that just like anything that his name's attached to, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go see it, like no matter what.
I wish I could say that, but then I realize it's still been like a long time since Shape of Water came out, and I haven't seen that.
Oh, you haven't seen that?
No.
My God. All right, we're doing that movie soon.
In my subconscious, I knew one day we'd have a podcast, and I was like, I need to save this.
Fair enough. The other cool thing that came out at Comic-Con at home is I think it was Comic-Con at home, or it might have just come out around the same time. There's a trailer for a new Russian movie called Sputnik. Did you hear about that?
No, I did not.
Yeah, I didn't think much of it, but I watched the trailer, and it's an alien kind of thing. It kind of gives me some like Arrival vibes almost. But the alien creature we saw in the trailer looks kind of cool, and I think people who are fans of this podcast, who like monsters and creatures and stuff, check it out. It's in Russian, but the creature seems cool.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna definitely peep that trailer as soon as we're done.
Yeah. Well, anyway, that's enough. I guess pop culture news, but hopefully, for those of you who are into monsters, find something to enjoy there. But I wanted to ask you something, Khalid.
Yeah, what's up?
What shape do you think I'm thinking of right now?
It is my new favorite shape, and if it's not this, then I don't really care what you're thinking about. But is it a triagon?
God, you're the worst. It's not a trigon. It's not a trigon.
Okay, what's the shape?
A square. Do you want to know why?
Why, Joe?
A square slash quadrilateral. No gons in this one. It's just a square. And I'm thinking of that because today, Khalid, we are going to be touching on a fourth corner of pop culture. For those of you keeping tabs, we've done movies, TV shows, short films, and today we're doing a fourth one. What are we doing?
Today, we're talking about comic books, the original nerd haven, if you ask me. And the comic book we're talking about today is Volume 1 of the series Bitterroot, which came out in 2019, created by David F. Walker, Chuck Brown, and Sanford Green. The summary here is from Comixology, which it's really great if you don't have the time to hit up a physical store, if physical stores aren't open, and you just like having they have a cool guided view feature on your phone that I like to use. So I'm getting the summary from our homeboy Comixology today. And the summary goes like this. In the 1920s, the Harlem Renaissance is in full swing, and only the Sangree family can save New York and the world from the supernatural forces threatening to destroy humanity. But the once great family of monster hunters has been torn apart by tragedies and conflicting moral codes. The Sangree family must heal the wounds of the past and move beyond their differences, or sit back and watch a force of unimaginable evil ravage the human race.
What a monster.
They're creatures of the abstract that live off potential energy.
It's alive!
You know what you forgot to mention, Khalid? Bitterroot is an Eisner Award-winning comic book now, too.
Hey, well deserved.
Yeah,
Well
Eisner
deserved.
Award-winning Bitterroot is what we're discussing today. Before we dig really into the story and the nitty-gritty of the creatures and whatnot, what's your history with comics, Khalid?
It's hard to say because comic books typically, I'm not like unique in this. You come to it so young, it's hard to really put your finger on exactly when you were introduced to it. I do have like random little memories. Like one time, my mom took me to a library, and they had like a big book of like the classic Marvel characters, like Namor and the original like OG Iron Man and stuff. It was like a book full of like cool descriptions and panels of them, and like it literally cost like a nickel a page, and I basically had my mom photocopy all of the pages so that I could put them up on my wall. So yeah, I think I still owe her $15. Other than that, I think what like really made me into comics, ironically, was the movie Unbreakable, the M. Night Shyamalan movie. It's so juvenile now, but like when you're an actual juvenile, it's like mind blowing when somebody's like, "Oh yeah, the Greek myths are like they were the original comic books," and being able to reframe everything in that lens made me that much more interested to get into it. And more recently, obviously, one thing that me and you bond over is the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Superhero movies in general are kind of hit or miss, but there's something so fascinating about this like multi-billion-dollar prestige TV series. Like it's not even a movie franchise anymore. So it's been really cool to just kind of get lost in that and the intricacies and implications of each subsequent story. So yeah, man, I'm a comic nerd. Maybe not as big as some, including people in this very conversation, but I do consider myself a fan.
I mean, any level of fan is a fan to me. I mean, we're at Frankenstein's podcast. We're an anti-gatekeeping podcast. We'll say right off the bat here.
What's a gate? I don't even know what a gate is.
Yeah, we don't even know. No gates.
Can't keep what you don't know about.
Exactly. But I'm kind of with you. I got into comic books when I was a kid myself. when I was in early elementary school, I used to actually have like a subscription to Captain America where it would like come to the mail, which was
Right.
sweet. And then one of my first like big like trade paperback comics I got, my dad got me this comic book of Batman versus the Xenomorph from Alien, which was super cool. I don't know if it's actually good, but it was cool when I was like 7,
Right.
Yeah, it was awesome. But yeah, I've been into comic books since then. My family owned a bakery when I was growing up, and there's a comic book shop that was really close to it called Hot Comics out in New Hope, which shout out because they're still around and they're great. Hot Comics, go there. But I used to get comic books from there, and they also had a sweet selection of Star Trek toys that I would buy too. But yeah, ever since then I've been into it and still am. Same with you. Echo the MCU piece. Like that's been a huge reinvigoration of my love for the comics as well. But yeah, just a bit of the history there. But now we come to you guys listening to this with one of our favorite comics from the last couple of years is Bitterroot. And as you said, Khalid, in the opening, it's co-written by David F. Walker and Chuck Brown. And Chuck Brown has written for Punisher and Black Panther for Marvel. He also has a new comic out called On the Stump, which is apparently about political races being decided by hand-to-hand combat in arenas called stumps, which sounds super cool. I kind of want to read that now. And David F. Walker has written Shaft, Luke Cage, Occupy Avengers, Nighthawk. I've read a lot of his stuff, and he's fantastic. But he also does documentaries, and he's kind of an authority on blaxploitation films. That's kind of his gig. And then Sanford Green is the illustrator, who I'm sure you could probably recognize the art from lots of comics out there. But coming from there, what did you think of the comic itself? We're just talking about Volume 1 today. I don't think Volume 2 is technically out, but a couple of the issues are. Volume 1, Family Business, Khalid, what'd you think?
Yeah, I've read it twice now, and I actually 3 times. I dig it. I think the first time I read it, it was a little too exposition heavy in the beginning, especially with the panels involving Blink and Ma Etta. But now that like you know where the story's going, it's so much more interesting. Just kind of dwelling on certain panels, and yeah, props to the artwork. It's super awesome. I'm sure I've seen it elsewhere because it's just like it's got a very familiar color palette and design to it that I'm a fan of. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, just if you're just asking for overall thoughts right now, like, yeah, this is a cool setting and set of characters to follow in a very interesting story. I mean, I would think that because the metaphor is so straightforward that it would be kind of a turnoff or a little too heavy-handed, but nah, like it just works. It's great, and you really root for this family to get their crap together long enough to save the world.
Agreed. Yeah, I think with comics in general too, like the metaphors are always tend to be more heavy-handed than you would get in any other medium. But when I'm with you on that. When I read this the first time through, I think I really liked it, but I didn't love it as much. And it was the second or third time, like looking through it and going through it again, I was like, this is really something special. Like this is a really cool story, cool, unique ideas, cool blending of like genres and different ideas. And there's just a lot to it, really. Like, for those of you who haven't read it, highly recommend that you go read it. I have the trade paperback of Volume 1, which I read. I loved. But Khalid, you read it on Comixology, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so you could find it. You could find it a lot of places, and it's definitely highly recommended from us. It's kind of set during the Harlem Renaissance era, but there's also like a weird Western element to it, where there's like weird creatures and like the deep South, almost cowboy-esque element. It kind of combines like aspects of like old school alchemy and sort of steampunk imagery with it too. So there's just a lot going on, but it all fits together in such a cool way. And yeah, I know I loved it.
Yeah, man. Should we just get into it? Should we talk a little bit more about it, or what are you thinking?
I think so. So the main idea behind the story is it centers around the Sangri family, and they're kind of the main force that's protecting humanity from these creatures called the Jinnu. And we thought we'd just break down some of the main characters here. So would you like to do that, Khalid?
Yeah. yeah. So I guess our protagonist, I don't even know because it does just jump perspective a lot, but I think because of like who we're introduced to in the Sangri family first, I'm gonna say is Blink, which is one of the cousins. There's four cousins total. So she's one of the cousins, and her whole thing is that her grandma Ma Etta, who is the matriarch of the family, wants her to follow in her footsteps of learning how to make the serums that turn Janu back into people. But she is a very skilled fighter and frustrated by the gender dynamics that would tell her that she can't fight monsters when she's clearly one of the most well equipped to. Um, Outside of that, we have Maeda, like I mentioned, as the matriarch. She's really big on keeping the family unit together as much as she can, and through a series of events, none of the cousins have their parents, so she is essentially their parent as well. Um, Outside of that, we have Berg, who he looks like he's just like a huge dude with like a beard. He's bald. And then they do that fun little juxtaposition thing where it's like big guy, so you'd think he'd be adult, but actually he's got a huge vocabulary, frustratingly huge at times.
Yes, I didn't know what he was saying sometimes.
It's just like for what is like you communication has to be important to you guys as a unit. Like you can't stop down in the middle of a monster fight and whip out the thesaurus because this dude wants to like show you what he learned. It was a lot. Okay, so moving on. The other cousin is Cullen, and he's just a sweet old nerd boy. He wants to help the family and be in the fight, but it also just of all of the cousins comes the least easily to him, which also makes me root for him a little bit more because that's kind of where I would be with it. I'm not a fighter, but I also have the fight in me where it's like I've never been scared to say or do something out of fear of like any kind of physical repercussion, but I also have to keep in mind that I probably will lose an altercation. So Cullen really spoke to me in that regard. He's a sweet little nerd boy. And then the last cousin is Ford, who is I just have him down. Like next to his name, I just put Blade.
Blade.
Like, I don't know how else to say it. Like, he's basically the Wesley Snipes character from the movie Blade, except just a little bit more cynical, which I didn't know was possible. He's super cool. Of all of them, conceptually, the idea is that the Sangri family doesn't really kill the Janu. They try to bring them back, which is like supposed to, I mean, within the sense of the metaphor of what the Janu can do, which we'll get into. It's the idea of you don't necessarily need to like go to war with your oppressor. There's a way forward so that it's not just a bunch of bodies on both sides. But Ford is not about that life. He's like, nah, stack the bodies. We got enough on our side that I'll never come close to making it even, which is a school of thought. So yeah, he's an interesting character too. If I was younger, he would definitely be my number one. But as I just said, my number one is Cullen.
Yeah. There's a part. So to what you're saying about Ford, there's a line he has which was interesting where he talks about how his family likes to try to purify the Jinnu, and he thinks that they need to be amputating them. And I thought that was a good like kind of description of like his character's motivation in a sense.
Yeah, I mean it's that reductive argument that always gets ascribed to Martin Luther King and Malcolm X in essence. It's how do you address this situation, and nobody is entirely right or wrong. There's always going to be evidence one way or the other that gives credence to both. So it's really cool to see that acted out, especially before that era and in a setting where you don't have to feel as dicey about it, especially if you're a white reader or something like that. Like they're talking about demons, not necessarily white people. Yeah. So yeah, it's really cool. And then, do we want to talk about Uncle Enoch? Is that too much of a spoiler?
No, we could talk about Uncle Enoch. Yeah.
Okay, so he's the last family member I want to bring up. He's the outcast of the family. They kind of get into it, but he made a big boo boo a few years back with it looks like all of their parents, or at least most of their parents, and they're gone. They're dead as far as the family is concerned, and it's because of Uncle Enoch. So he just kind of lives in his own little house outside of the city and does a bunch of like crazy dark magic stuff and like experiments with it, and that's part of the reason why they don't like him anymore.
Right, and he's kind of where the alchemy piece comes in, where he kind of he plays around with potions and spells and stuff. Where the family mainly works with, like, hence the title roots, bitter roots and serums.
Yeah. So he's an interesting character too, real fun guy. And yeah, that's the Sangri family.
Yeah, that's the main group that we follow in it, and it's really cool because they all. I mean, when you have a cast of characters this big and you're introducing them, there's a lot of heavy lifting you got to do in a story like this, and I feel like it's done pretty well, and they're all given a pretty unique shake. You know, like some of them are kind of archetypes, but they're also given something that I feel like I'm interested in learning more about each of them. They're not carbon copies of each other. Like, it could have been really easy to make the cousins, like the younger ones, like all basically very similar, but they're all very, very distinct, and I really appreciate that about the writing here.
Yeah, it helps because there are a lot of characters, so making them all that distinguishable is important to keeping the flow going. I feel like a lot of times when you get these like monster hunting or demon hunting units, it's like one clearly definable leader and then a bunch of interchangeable soldiers.
Right. Yeah, and they definitely avoid falling into that trap here.
Totally. It's another credit to the writers. It's what made reading this 2 or 3 more times after the fact worthwhile.
Yeah. And so for folks who haven't read this and are coming into this podcast, you might have been a little confused when we were talking about the family's interaction with the monsters in question here, the Jinnu, because we talked about them being purified or killed or whatever, what they actually are. So we're going to move into just what the monsters are, because I think that'll also help with the discussion too. Like, the monsters are the primary vehicle for the metaphor of it too, I think. So we'll talk a little bit about the themes of the story too within this part of the podcast. But the main monsters that we see in this story are called the Jinnu, and the idea behind the Jinnu is they're creatures that are born of like hate and really of racism, right, and prejudice, and just this base hatred and in a sense kind of a fear. But the Sangri family, they found a way to purify these monsters. So when someone's soul basically is consumed with this hatred, this sort of like deep-seated hatred and fear and racism, they become corrupted and become these Jinnu creatures. And the family make a serum out of they call Fifno root, and they're able to sort of purify the soul and bring people back into humanity, bring them back to where they're coming from. But the debate here comes in, and this is where we see the Ford character and some of the I guess maybe the villains of the series or the antagonists of the series, their points is they feel like after purifying them, there's no guarantee they'll stay purified, and that hate will come right back. And so they're like, it's better to, as Ford says, amputate them and just get rid of them altogether.
Yeah, that's a pretty good summation of it, Joe. Good job.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's for me at least, metaphorically, I guess a lot of this comes down to it being a metaphor about activism and what ways you can engage with that, with Ford being kind of more of leaning towards like the anarchic side of activism, of literal and like theoretical dismantling of these structures, where like I guess the hot word of the year is like rioting. He would be a rioter if we were like to make all of these characters protesters. And then I guess in that essence, the bitter root or the serum, is it Fifno is the serum?
Fifno, yeah.
Yeah, so Fifno is when you're able to convert somebody who maybe I'm just gonna say like BLM for this. Like, if you're a type of person that's like against Black Lives Matter, and after a while you get worn down, and maybe you started this as like a belligerent and ignorant person, but now because of one reason or another you've started to warm up to the idea. That's what Fifno is It's getting somebody outside of that like rage and hate that would make them otherwise just racist and scary for a big chunk of the country.
Type of person who would say like all lives matter.
Exactly. Yeah, that kind of person when they finally come around to it and understand like what they look like and what damage they're doing and try to come back from that. That's what Fifno reads to as me, and that's why it's like a character like Ford is so interesting because he just doesn't, even though he utilizes it still, you know. So it's like I don't think he can ever shake his upbringing and his education and stuff like that like makes him at least somewhat optimistic of there being a path forward. He still utilizes it, but for the most part he doesn't think is that's effective as just outright stopping the monsters cold in their tracks. But we most of us understand that as satisfying and immediate a solution as that would be, that doesn't get to the root of the issue.
Right. I love one thing I like about this too is that historically in comics that Ford character would have been the antagonist. Like he's still like he has different ideas than the family, but like I almost think of it like he'd almost be like the Magneto. Like you were saying, it's that Martin Luther King Malcolm X debate, which is a little reductive, but it kind of going in comics history reminds me of the Professor X Magneto kind of thing too.
Oh, totally. I mean, yeah, like it's I'm glad that like writers have kind of evolved past that of having to, I don't know. I mean, we've kind of evolved past it, but then I think about a character like Killmonger in Black Panther, and it's like, did we evolve? Because that movie almost got it right and still felt the need to make him detestable for the most part.
Yeah, at some parts, yeah, they definitely did.
And I mean, I don't know how much of that was Coogler and his writing partner and how much of that was the execs, but that's what was like kind of disappointing about Killmonger. As much as I love the character, it feels like there were a few awkward scenes shoehorned in to remind the audience not to get on his side too much, when I don't think that should ever be the consideration.
Right. I did a little bit of research here and into what the writers, so David F. Walker and Chuck Brown, pulled from like mythology wise to come up with the idea of the Jinnu. And I thought it was kind of interesting. So the design wise, I think they're sort of based off of like a combination of like imagery of, you know, like kind of vampire, werewolf, demon type stuff. They're not like consistently one thing, but they're kind of like, you know, just like monstery demon looking things. But they actually pulled from West African cultures to kind of come up with some idea and some of their mythology. And so here's a quote from Walker specifically. He says, Jinnu is a Mandinka word for devil or spirit. We took that word and imagined how in our world it passed down through generations of slaves until it became a popular term for monsters within a culture of those descended from slaves.
No, yeah, I actually picked like Jinnu stood out to me almost immediately because I'm Oromo, as you know, but our listeners may not. And so in my language, the word for devil is jinni.
Oh.
So I clocked that really quick, and a lot of it stems from Arabic language, the Arabic language, because I know it comes from the term jinn, which obviously like we more commonly know it as genie now, but in my language it was jinni, and then the language you just referenced was Jinnu. So yeah, it's just cool. It's a cool way to see how language unfolds around the world.
Agreed. Yeah, and it's nice to see something like this pulling from, you know, like you said, kind of rooted in Arabic, where a lot of like these kind of like old myth stories come from like a Latin base, and so I like seeing that being changed up a little bit here.
Yeah, it's awesome. This is a very global-minded story for sure.
Right. But one of the big parts about this story, too, is that we come into the story as the readers, and the family has already been fighting Jinnu for a long time. Like, that's the norm right now. The norm is that Jinnu exist, and the family is there to combat that. Where the plot picks up is they're starting to see something different than the Jinnu happening. So the Jinnu are bred of hate and racism, and the idea is that that's just all that's always been there in America here, especially during this era. And another reason why it's so poignant today, I think too. But they're seeing something else. There's a new monster, and I think it's Uncle Enoch gives the name to it, the Inzondo, which he describes as a soul ravaged by great sorrow and great pain, which sort of leads us a little bit into our main antagonists of the book. Did you want to touch on them at all?
Yeah, so our main antagonists are Dr. Sylvester and Miss Nightsdale. And Miss Nightsdale is the Inzondo, right?
They both are, I think, actually.
Okay, so that's where I wasn't as clear because they don't turn into the same thing.
No. The
but
Inzondo
yeah.
are more diverse in what they look like. I think so. The Jinnu look mostly the same, but the Inzondo start to look a little bit different. Like she kind of comes off as like almost like a bird-like creature, and he's like a very tall, I don't know, like almost kind of demon-looking creature, but really tall and muscly.
He looks like Jafar at the end of Aladdin when he becomes a genie.
Perfect analogy. Yeah.
Yeah, like he's just like super huge, like ripped all of a sudden. He's got like claws, but he still looks like a person.
Yeah, but they're coming from some deep trauma too.
Yeah, no, definitely coming, and that's what's so cool about this metaphor to me. That again, like initially I thought it was a limiting metaphor, but it actually they throw in that extra dimension of like it's not just white people's or racist people's souls that can get warped by hate. It's the victims of it too, and that is always such a rich topic to me because it makes the person so sympathetic. And in this case, what's so fascinating is that Dr. Sylvester and Miss Nightsdale, they both were, right?
They both were, yeah.
Yeah, they were both victims of the Tulsa Massacre, otherwise known as the bombing of Black Wall Street. And anybody who's watched Watchmen or just been a little bit more active in this last year understands what that is. But just to give a little bit of context, from May 31st to June 1st, there was just days of attacking this small Tulsa neighborhood that was largely black populated, and more than even being black populated, it was a thriving community of black people with like they owned homes, they owned businesses, and because one thing led to another, I don't want to muddle the thing that caused it all, but one thing led to another. The white people in the surrounding towns essentially, with the permission of the police, just massacred all of those people. So they do a good job of using that as a catalyst in the miniseries of from Damon Lindelof, The Watchmen on HBO, which I highly recommend. And then in this, it's the catalyst for Dr. Sylvester and Miss Nightsdale, where they were also victims of this and lost their family. And it's a very sad, real story that I highly recommend people find out more about if this is the first they're hearing about it. I should definitely not be the only person that gives you context on this. It's too important of a piece of history. But going back to the story and the idea of warping souls, that is a perfect thing to pull from of like a trauma that if we lived in a world where our souls could manifest in certain ways, that is something that would do it for sure. So I really appreciated that. I really appreciated the connection they had to each other, and also, I guess for me, what's so cool about it is that it doesn't excuse anything they do. They're still the villains of the story, and that's always my favorite thing, when a story understands that just because you have context for why someone is bad doesn't excuse why they're bad. Sometimes stories miss the mark with that.
Right, and but that's also pulling some of the heavy lifting that some stories don't do, where they're just like they're bad because they're bad, or they're bad because they want power or something like that. But they're doing the work to really show you their motives and their motivation and their history and their trauma. So you can still say that, oh yeah, they're the bad guys, but you can be like, I get that, right?
Yeah, exactly. So that was really cool. Like I really, really responded to the villains the second time I read through this.
Yeah, and they're super interesting characters themselves because at first they're becoming these kind of Inzondo creatures too, and they don't want to at first, right? Like they're kind of looking at like how can we like cure ourselves? They're trying to steal Fifno serum. They're trying to like spy on the family to see what secrets they can learn, but then what sort of pushes them into that villain territory is they're like, no, let's embrace this. Like, like we have this power.
Right. And there's something even with like the way that they utilize that power versus the racists, where they actually start to infect a member of the Sangri family.
Yeah.
Which is also an interesting concept of the racists themselves may be able to infect other people that already have racist leaning tendencies, but with people that don't have that, there's still something that can like turn you towards hate. There's still, and it's usually a victim of hate that can do that.
Yeah.
I personally know that like there are certain storylines without getting into too many triggering subjects. The Elijah McClain story about a young boy in Colorado. I know the first time I read that, I went through like a whirlwind of emotions about like hearing more about the kid, hearing about the circumstances of why it even went down the way it did, and the response to it, and it's like I don't know how else to say it other than trauma is scarring, and there are times when even the most peaceful person just wants to give in to like all of that rage and just manifest it somehow, and that's just something that this book gets so right.
Yeah, 100% agreed. It's powerful and heartbreaking, and there's just so much imagery here that I think is just so like it pops out to you in such a powerful manner. I sent you that picture when I was rereading it the other day of the scene where like the cops are trying to like shake down people, and then we turn and in the next page is a big image of realize all the cops are Jinnu monsters at this point because they're just like they're full of hate,
That panel is so striking and so real.
It really is, and I kind of questioned myself too because I like when I read this last year, I kind of glossed over it. Like I was like, oh, this is part of the story. The monster's cool, whatever. But now I see that and I'm like, oh my God, this is so like meaningful. And it almost makes me like kind of question myself. I'm like, why is it like, I get that now, like this is much more at the forefront of like political conversation and like social discourse and everything. But I'm like, this isn't new though. Like the visceral reaction I should have to that isn't new. But like being a white person, I'm like, I was blind to a lot of things before. I wasn't thinking about things the way I do now. But I feel like it makes me reflect on how long it took me to get mad about these things, and that's something I do kind of feel. I feel ashamed about that sometimes.
I mean, I don't know that there's any shame that needs to come along with it.
Right.
It's just like if you were a kid in America, a cop was one of the first things that was cool to you. I truly believe that, and for whatever reason, that's what happened. But I think that. Like this isn't a political podcast. We don't necessarily need to dive into the politics of it all, but like I think that it's a generally agreeable statement that like growing up means like not giving anybody the 100% benefit of the doubt and holding everybody accountable. I think that we should all be able to at least start from a place like that. Mm-hmm. And so I don't think that you should be too hard on yourself, or any listeners too hard on yourselves for being a fan of the police or being a fan of what the police represent, which is ostensibly safety. That is a fine thing to want to be in favor of. I think it's just accountability. It's putting aside the big banner of what the job is and understanding that there are people that occupy those jobs and people are fallible.
Great point. And I think if people like us and people are listening to this are grappling with these ideas, like you're doing the work, you're doing good things and coming to hopefully some good conclusions too. But all of that being said, I think we got pretty heavy there, didn't we?
I don't know how we couldn't.
Yeah. No, I think it's good.
Story like this, yeah.
Yeah. But all of that being said, I think that this story really gets to the root of why I love monsters and why I really wanted to do this podcast. Because when the monster genre is, or like it's not really a genre. When monsters as a point in a plot or a story are are added in, like they can bring so much to a story, or so much to so much like metaphor to the, like there's so much you can do with it, like there's a lot of creativity that just goes into the design or the making or the conception of the creature itself, but then like what it represents in the story can do so much, and it's so like cool to see. And I think that's what really inspired me to want to do this podcast to begin with. Like, some monsters we talk about are going to be pulpy and silly and fun, and that's part of the fun of it too. But what really gets to the root of it again is how you can use those as a metaphor and really make a statement with it, or say something meaningful.
I think that's a big part of what I like about it too. Just in generally speaking, you can do a lot with monsters as far as giving the reader someone that's easily identified as like okay to kill, which is important.
Yeah.
It's the same reason that you make stormtroopers wear helmets, or you make like those when it's like a bunch of like G-men coming for you, it's a bunch of like nondescript guys in black uniforms and stuff. You have to have a certain amount of remove so that it's not just like it looks like everyday people getting slaughtered by the good guys,
like orcs or Trollocs or
exactly like
those kinds of things, zombies.
You have to have that remove, which helps with getting through a story, but just specifying it to this story, I love that they have that character with Blink, who just wants to kick monster butt. Like, that's all she wants to do. She wants to fight and kill these monsters. Maybe not kill them, but she wants to subdue them with violence. And I love that at first it seems like Maeda is trying to limit her specifically because she's a woman and women have their own place. But as the story goes on, and again, this only came to me on reread, she is really actually trying to teach her that there's more to the fight than just a physical altercation. You have to be able to really encompass every element of what it means to like battle these monsters. And a big part of that like really shone through, and I love the story for including it, is when their neighborhood is getting attacked and all of the people in the community like come to them to hide because they know they're the monster hunters in the neighborhood. And Maeda like is arguing with Blink because like Blink's like, we gotta go out and fight, and she's like, no, right now we have to feed these people and make sure they're safe, and that is just as noble. And I bring it back to the protests going on. The few times I've been able to go, as much of there have been those people with makeshift shields and just like full of fight and fury at the front line, there have been just as many people that are there as medics or are there to make sure that people have water, and just like the simplest like acts of human kindness that actually continue to fuel the fight. Because if you've ever tried to just be angry at the top of your lungs, you know that it's a short shelf life. You're burnt out fast. And so you need those people that keep that in consideration and keep trying to take care of the people that have exhausted themselves. And Maeda is a great representation of that.
Maeda is so cool. I think she's my favorite.
She's dope, and she can fight. They all can fight. They
all
dope,
can fight. Yeah.
but she doesn't make it about being able to fight. She just is like, that's just a part of being like a well-rounded warrior.
Right. Yeah.
She's kind of like Master Splinter.
Michael Splinter.
Yeah. Don't steal that name, people. I'm gonna use it for something. I know it.
I love it. Yeah. Speaking of bears. Was that a transition? Segue?
Well, yeah, man. What are your better ones? And take that how you will.
Yeah. Let me try again. Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff here. And you know what else is good is our bears. So
Are bears good? Like fundamentally? Is that what you're arguing?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. Anyway, speaking of bears, Khalid, 4 bears test.
4 bears test. So if this is your first time listening, I have this little segment where I try to argue whether or not you could replace the titular creature in the story that we're discussing with Four Bears and whether or not the story remains kind of the same, if the threat remains the same at least. Superfan Ryan Mintz brought up that this works as a way to judge the monster on its own grounds outside of the narrative. So props to you for making this dumb thing smart. Okay, so do the Genu. Could you replace the Genu with Four Bears and more or less get the same story? I'm gonna say this passes pretty straightforward if we're just talking about the Genu, not the what was the bird monster and Dr. Sylvester called?
Inzondo.
Yeah, so I don't think it works with the Inzondo, but because we're specifically talking about the Genu right now, I'm gonna say it passes because they're definitely not easy to take down, and you have like the only reason the Sangri are able to one-on-one combat them is because of a lot of training, which maybe I'm being an optimist, but I think if you trained your whole life, you could probably take on a bear. And strength-wise, so okay, this is where it kind of gets into the weeds of it, where I don't think any one of them is as strong as Four Bears, but because they routinely attack in pairs or in groups, that's why I'm giving it the pass. Does that make sense, Joe?
Yeah, it does.
Okay, so in that sense, like, yeah, it definitely passes the Four Bears test, where the threat of these monsters kind of matches what the threat. Like, if you're just in Harlem and all of a sudden Four Bears attack your neighborhood, that's pretty much the same scary scenario to me. So, yeah, I think pretty straightforward pass this week.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like, I think you're absolutely right in terms of like physicality. That's where that passes. But like, of course, like as with any situation, the metaphor is completely lost with the Four Bears. But
yeah, I'm really just trying to judge it based on the monster
itself. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, I don't think one Genu equals Four Bears, but they also rarely attack one at a time.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, the Inzondo wouldn't pass because there's definitely more there. They don't really attack in hordes, do they?
No, it's two of them, and more often than not, they're like by themselves when they do it. Like, I think strength-wise, they're closer to Four Bears, but probably way stronger.
I think the Inzondo are much stronger, and they're also much more like intelligent. I feel like the Genu when the people become Genu, they're just like kind of almost zombie-esque, like mindless, just going after. But the Inzondo, as we see from Dr. Sylvester and Miss Nightsdale, are very cognizant. They can talk still and avoid certain people and go after other people, kind of thing. So it's a very different. They wouldn't pass. I don't think. I mean, you're the Four Bears expert, but.
Am I the expert?
Yeah, you're the go-to Four Bears guy.
All right. Well, yeah. Then I say it passes.
There you go. It's kind of fun to think about too. There's actually some other monsters in here, like other than the Inzondo and the Genu. There's also when I don't mean like Ford is meeting like an old racist down south, and he turns out to be a demon, but he's not a Genu demon. He's like the Genu are people who get corrupted into demons. This guy was a demon pretending to be a human. And that was, like you said, he was a gatekeeper, which we don't know much about yet. I think we're going to learn more about that as the series progresses. And that was an interesting concept. And we also saw Uncle Enoch's pets, I think.
They were so cute.
They were adorable.
Yeah, they look like porgs.
I kind of thought I got like a Eevee vibe from Pokemon.
Oh yeah, that's even better.
But I actually, like, in terms of comics, it actually made me think of, in a weird way, like the Lion Cat from Saga.
I don't think I ever saw Saga.
You know, Red Saga.
Oh, see, yeah.
I guess you
the
look.
book.
Yeah, you look at it,
okay.
I guess, so you kind of see it. But like the Lion Cat, like they're not like aggressive, and like Lion Cat's not aggressive, but it's like this sort of like sidekick cat character that's sort of I feel like it easily became a fan favorite. And I feel like as the series progresses, if those pets are like all around a lot and he maybe names them, like they would easily become a fan favorite in this, you know, like they could make t-shirts with those guys on it.
I mean, I don't know about you, but like I very much feel like this was written in a way that like they were like, we want this to be a movie someday.
And great segue. Let me pull it up.
Is there actually? Oh, I didn't even.
Deadline broke the news about the Bitterroot movie adaptation, which has a damn cool premise, and then they just say everything we said. I just quoted it. But guess who is attached to produce?
Is it Jordan Peele? It feels like Jordan Peele's attached to everything.
No, but that's a good idea. It's Ryan Coogler.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, no disrespect to Jordan Peele. He's also somebody I'd get mad excited about, but I'm very excited about Ryan Coogler because that man's batting average is ridiculous right now.
Right. I think that's going to be sweet. This will be such a cool film or show or whatever that's had to do with it. It'll be so cool to see this brought to screen.
I kind of want this to be a movie, but I'd understand if they thought that like a series makes more sense.
Yeah, I feel like it's either going to be a movie or it's going to be like a Watchmen Lovecraft Country thing where it's HBO limited series.
Yeah, that's the only way that I could see them like doing it justice. But it also, I mean, if it's a series, this really does just kind of do the Lovecraft Country thing as far as like setting and subject matter to me. That I don't think we need two of them right now. Not that there can't be. I'm sure there's two monster hunting white shows out there. That's not even what I'm saying.
I mean, there's a ton of them.
Yeah, I just want to. I just want one of them to be a movie to give me a complete story versus like the whole parceling it out thing that a series would do.
Yeah, and if there's a world that exists where we go back to theaters someday, I just want to see this in the big screen.
Exactly. Coogler belongs on the big screen.
Yeah, I love it. So the question that remains then, after everything we've talked about, is given the opportunity, Khalid, you walking down the street in 1920s Harlem, you come upon a Jinnu. Would you fight that Jinnu or would you try to flirt with it to save your life?
Okay, so last episode, when we had our awesome guest Rod on and you asked me if I would flirt with any of the creatures, I picked the monster from Dispel with the rationale that even if I'm only allowed to flirt with the monster version, knowing that it's a relatively pretty young mom that underneath it all kind of helps me like get my flirt machinations going. I only bring that up to say that this episode, knowing that underneath the evil monster is a racist, makes it a lot easier for me to be like, yeah, no, I'm gonna fight you. I don't care. Like, you're really bad and mean, and I don't know that I would go full forward and put two bullets in your head or anything, but I'm definitely gonna give you a quick roundhouse or two, just for my benefit. So fight it.
I like the dramatic pause there for effect. It was perfect.
I just realized I trailed off before giving a definitive answer.
I was waiting. I was waiting like on the edge of my seat there.
Thank you for holding me accountable.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to the next one. I think I don't know when it comes out. Do you know any updates about when the next volume will come out, or are the?
I'm on the Comixology thing right
Yeah?
now, and one sec. I'm pretty sure you can get Volume 2 now.
Volume 2, really? Oh man, I gotta read it.
Don't hold me to it. I could
Okay.
be wrong, but I think so.
Yeah. Well, I bet there's more traffic coming towards it now that's got that Eisner announcement.
Yeah, that's really awesome. I'm glad
Yeah.
that they got that. It's
Yes.
it's a very good title or prestige award to get.
Yeah. Read this if you haven't.
Yeah. Yeah. It's on pre-order. I just saw it. Volume 2 is on pre-order, so it is not out.
Yeah. Well, I think, Khalid, that kind of brings us to our final segment. This is running longer than I thought it would, which is okay. But our last segment that we've decided to call now is our What the Fandom segment, where we get a chance to kind of break down things that we're obsessed with right now, things we're into, things we think that you listeners might dig if you're fans of monsters and just general genre stuff like us. So, Khalid, What the Fandom? I'm going to say, is that good? Should I say that? Is that cool? What the Fandom?
Yeah, if you say it just like that every time. What the fandom?
What the fandom?
You got to put a whole voice to it.
You made it sound like Jerry Seinfeld. That was weird.
Yeah, that's what it sounded like to me.
Oh, okay.
What's the deal with fandom?
All right, go ahead, Khalid. Go.
All right. So my fandom this episode is gonna be about the documentary from 2019 called Fantastic Fungi. It is super awesome. It's all about mushrooms. Not just the psychedelic mushrooms, but a lot of it is about the psilocybin type that most popularly is known to make people trip. But what's so cool about it is that they actually go into what mushrooms do for the world and how they are arguably one of the most intelligent species on this planet, including humans. There's a lot of cool stuff and information in there. Some really cool facts about what mushrooms can do for the human mind as far as reconnecting neurons and what it can do for our elderly with degenerative brain diseases. And it also gives the history of why at times mushroom studies were considered like or weren't considered, they just were illegal, and how labeling it a class 1 narcotic was always kind of a mistake for a lot of reasons. And I don't know. I just don't know what else to say about it other than it is a fascinating watch. Fantastic fungi. Go ahead if you're looking for a cool documentary that gives you a lot of context on ingredient that most people just consider yucky in salads.
Ah, interesting, Clete. Who narrates it? Because I just looked it up while you were talking.
Oh, okay. I can't. Do you know? Do you want to just say it?
Brie Larson.
That's it. It is Brie Larson.
Yeah, that's kind of fun.
Captain Marvel herself.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she's actually a really good narrator in it. So
Is this
it's good. It's good stuff.
Does it have a lot from the famed mushroom scientist Paul Stamets?
Yeah, it does. Who gets a shout out in one of our favorite shows to discuss, Star Trek Discovery.
Yeah, the mycelial network is based on like his theories.
Yeah, so if Star Trek's co-signing this guy, then you know it's something worth watching. There's a cool story in there about what psychedelic mushrooms did for him. So
Yeah, well, I'll have to I actually haven't seen it. I'll have to give it a watch.
I really think you dig it. I think everybody listening could benefit from watching it.
Well, my what the fandom today, Khalid. I have been listening to audiobooks a little bit lately. And one of the audiobooks that I'm listening to is a book called The Croning by I think it's pronounced Laird Barron is his name. But it's a really, really creepy, slow burn, kind of Lovecraftian cosmic horror story. And I listen to it in the car, and I can't really listen to it during the day because I don't get the right vibe. I feel like I have to listen to it. I'm driving at night more so. But it's really good. And I think if those of you who like monsters, you would totally dig that book. It's creepy. There's some creepy creatures and just some creepy like concepts that are just coming at you, just like where things are just slightly weird, but like off-putting enough to be just kind of terrifying, but not like over the top off-putting. So I'm really digging it. If you, it's kind of like got a vibe like an Annihilation kind of vibe. If you guys have seen Annihilation, it reminds me a little bit of that.
That movie also has a creature that would actually technically fail the 4 bears test.
Well, it kind of is a bear.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's one bear, so it would fail.
Fair point. I think we should do that. I've been really thinking about that movie again lately. We should totally do that.
Nice. What was the name of the book you were just recommending?
It's called The Croning.
The Croning.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm gonna put that on the list.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm also gonna give a shout out just because you put me onto this and I've been really into it lately. I've been watching The Magicians from the Sci-Fi Channel. I actually haven't read the book, so maybe that's a little shame on me. But the show is really good. It's really picked up. I just finished season 1, and I finally watched the first of season 2, and I'm super into it now.
Oh yeah, Magicians is the good stuff. Season 1's good in its own right, but season 2 and 3 really lean into the weird.
Yeah, it's solid. I'm a fan. As you know, Khalid, I'm a fan of weird.
You are a fan of that.
Right up my alley. So,
Yes, sir.
Anyway, Khalid, what are we doing next time?
So, it's going to be one of two things. Either we're going to have on a guest that I'm very excited to discuss movies with, and if we do have that guest on, it'll be The Fly for the next episode. If that doesn't work out scheduling reasons, if it doesn't work out because of scheduling reasons, then we're going to do a classic episode of the original series, The Twilight Zone. So either way, there's a lot to look forward to. That's black and white.
That's black and white, yeah. So yeah, we'll. It's all based on scheduling at this point, so we're not quite sure what will come out. But if you follow our social pages like Twitter and Facebook, then you'll see our updates. I tend to post what we're talking about in the next podcast on the Tuesday we don't release. So every other Tuesday we release episodes, and then the opposite Tuesdays I make a post about what monster we're discussing next.
You're killing the social media presence.
Speaking of social media, guess what else just happened?
What?
Super friend of the podcast again, another shout out for Mints, made us a subreddit. Did you hear about this, Khalid?
I did, from you, and it's so awesome. Thank you so much, Ryan. That is
Yeah.
so cool of you.
Super cool. So if you're a Redditor, head on over to our Friendensteins.
What? It would just be like the monster, Frankenstein. It'd be Friendensteins.
Friendensteins.
Like, what-
Friendenstein.
How, Joe?
I was reading
This
it.
is bordering Trigon.
I was reading it and it just came out that way. That was bad.
Friendenstein. Like, hey, I'm Joe Friendenstein. Like, come on, man.
Sorry. Our Friendensteins. That's what we're calling our loyal fans now, the Friendensteins. So that's pretty fun. I'm going to put that in social sites too. But head over there. We've got some discussions for each episode. I want to post a thread that would be like, what monsters should we cover? So maybe like listeners could have input in like monsters we talk about. I think that'd be super fun. And maybe give some ones that we aren't thinking about.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. And we'd love to just like see what you guys get into, what you talk about, and like find out who our fans are and like what they like and stuff. And hopefully eventually talk about it on the pod, just like Joe mentioned, because we are touched that anybody wants to listen to us just gab about all of these nerdy things that we thought only we cared about, and it's very gratifying and nice to see. So thank you all for continuing to listen to us.
Truly heartwarming. And thanks we are now at 7 5-star ratings on Apple. So if you like us, please give us some reviews on Apples. I heard that on Apples. Did I say Apples plural?
I'm still stuck on Friendenstein.
Yeah. Give us a nice review on Apple Podcasts, because that helps their algorithm recommend us more, and more people can hear the good word of Frankenstein's podcast.
Yeah. And until next time, creep it easy.